Okay, so originally I was going to cover on this channel The Boys season. I keep wanting to say it's season 6, but it's season 4. Like, I don't know why my brain keeps saying, oh, it's season 6. Like, I don't know if there's another show that had a similar season 6. I don't know. It's just my brain keeps defaulting to season 6 for some reason. Anyway, originally I was going to cover this, I was going to cover each episode week by week, but the way it started, where they dropped like 3 episodes, I hate that they do that. I really do. I think they should just drop one and then you have 8 weeks of hype. Like instead of dropping three and then you get 5 weeks of hype. It like kills their hype for a few extra weeks. Like, I don't know the strategy behind that, but anyway, I'm no businessman, at Amazon. So anyway, originally I was going to cover it week by week, but I was watching with my dad, and we would like fall behind, and I would have to wait till our schedules matched up to where we can watch. So there were times where like episodes were out ahead of it where I was at. So it really felt like I'm like, I'll just talk about my overall thoughts when the season's over, and I won't be doing episode by episode videos, which is fine. Anyway, season thoughts. It was good, but, and there is definitely a big but here. Um, the cleverness of the boys, and I think this already started becoming a bit of a problem um, back in season 3. I wanted to just say season 5 because I keep thinking this is season 6. I don't know why. Back in season 3, this already started to become a bit of a problem, but it became much more of a problem this season. Is that the whole conceit of the boys is that it is from the get go a commentary on United States politics. It United States like media climate. Um, that is part of what the show was from its inception. And if anyone disagrees with that, like a lot of people are, you are not watching, paying attention. You do not have the media literacy that you think you do. However, here's the issue. It started off as clever, subtle satire, weaved throughout a narrative that is incredibly engaging and character driven, separately from the clever satire of our society. Like it's a situation where the two aren't necessarily codependent, I would say. In season 3, some of these issues started leaking in to where the satire became less and less subtle and more explicit with direct, like, and that started just seeping in slightly in season 3. It wasn't like at the level where I was like, oh, like this is really bad, yet. Season 4, on the other hand, it was really bad. I don't mean the season was bad, because overall I still enjoyed this season. I think the subtleness of the satire that drives the show is gone. The show is now about modern US politics. And that is sad in a way, because I'm someone who always like, there was a while where I was claiming The Boys is my favorite piece of like superhero media out there. And I would be recommending it forever, But now the show has gotten to a point where it's not accessible outside the current political climate, if that makes sense. Like, there's so much inside baseball to the current US political situation in this season that it might not be very comprehensible if you're not like a US citizen in 2024. Like that's how rough it is. There's like so much. And another issue is that there's throughout the show there's always been analogous figures to US politicians. That's been a part of the show since day one. But then in this season, there's direct dialogue references to those politicians. I'll give a key example. From the get-go, Victoria Newman is always supposed to be like an analog for AOC. Like, it's obvious. like they give her a lot of similar characteristics, mannerisms, and behaviors. Like, it's obvious. But she references meetings with AOC in the season. And, like, there's other politicians that are referenced in the same way. Like, and it... I don't know. If you watch the season, you completely get what I'm saying. It's just, it's gotten to a point where it's now not a separate timeline. Because the whole conceit of the boys is that this is a separate timeline from our reality in which superheroes began to emerge, and this company Vought that, like, bought into this whole superhero craze. We find out later they incepted it, but spoilers. But, like, bought into this whole superhero, cashed on it, became the dominant, like, media corporation in the space, like, analogous to Disney. From the beginning, it's always been, Vought has always been analogous to Disney. But this season they do Vought Plus, the Vought CU with, like, the phase timeline, and I'm like, come on, like you were so good at subtle allegory, and it just became so explicit that it's like I said, it's incomprehensible to anyone viewing it in 2024, and it was disappointing in that sense. And when the season first started, I was kind of in denial about it. I'm like, I don't see, this is not really very different from other seasons. Like, I don't know what people were talking about, and I was a little bit in denial. But as the season progressed, I got kind of fed up with it. But that's all to say, like the season was still very good. They continued the really good character work that I think is such a good part, like of the past seasons. Like, in most shows, if there's like an ensemble main cast, like you don't like everyone. You know, like, even my favorite series, One Piece, I don't like every single Straw Hat equally, you know. But with the core crew of the boys, I love every single one of those characters equally. Like Frenchie, Kimiko, Butcher, Huey, Starlight, Mother's Milk. Like, I fucking I adore them all. You know, they're all incredible, amazing characters and Blorbos. You know, I just love them. And that's so rare in shows. And I think the character work has continued very well this season. The only arc that I feel like was a little odd was, for a lot of this season, Huey is dealing with his dad, having had a stroke and being essentially brain dead in the hospital. And it would have been very good if they didn't introduce Huey's mom, who, maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like they're pulling a Ruby situation here where they, like, most heavily implied or even maybe explicitly said that Blake was an orphan, and yet they introduced her parents, who happen to be rich, wealthy, loving parents, in Volume 4, making the entire point of Blake's character being a loner and falling for Adam, like, and falling for his manipulation and abuse, like, completely invalidates that arc. So yeah, they do the kind of the same thing here, where Huey's mom shows up and it turns out she just left, she just walked out. Like, I feel like it was heavily implied that she was dead, and, like, the reason Huey had such a strong bond with his father is because he really stepped up and took care of Huey in the face of her death. And I feel like that's kind of negated. I understand why they did it. I think they would definitely wanted another bouncing board for Huey to be off of in these sequences and scenes, because, you know, Huey goes into a hospital room and it's just his comatose dad. Like, what's he gonna do? Sit there? Like, you know, they needed another voice of character to create conflict in this situation and do that. So, like, I understand. But that arc was a little odd. The whole Starlight not having her powers thing, like, or losing her powers thing, was kind of pointless. Like, when it's clearly an allusion to Spider-Man 2, and when they did it in Spider-Man 2, there was a reason for it. And here, like with this character psyche, here they don't really, if I recall, they don't really address it. I also think Starlight is, like, a little bit out of character this season in her aggressiveness, and, like, I feel like every line that she gives is, like, something fucking something, like, no fucking way, or, like, like I noticed her dialogue is just all like, "You're such a fucking bitch. No fucking way. Um, Go fuck yourself." Like every single line she said, like fuck was in the middle, and I'm like, what is with her dialogue this season? It's a little weird. Um, yeah, but I loved what they did with all the other characters. I loved Butcher's arc particularly, and his struggle with it. I predicted the whole split personality kind of thing, um, with the I can't remember the actor's name. Is it Jeffrey D. Morgan, or is that another actor? I'm just remembering that name for some reason. That might be it. That whole thing, I kind of predicted where that arc was going pretty quickly, but I love where Butcher's arc ended this season. I am a sucker for stories in which protagonists trying to do good fall and become the very thing that they were trying to stop in the first place. And then it comes to the other characters who have to end up stopping our hero, who used to be our like main protagonist. Um, like I'm sure the story begins with through the lens of Huey, but like in season one, Butcher was like really the core protagonist of the series, and now he seems to be shaping up to be the main villain. And you know, I thought they were going to go in opposite direction. Like I thought they were going to go like, okay, like in the end of this season, either he dies and he's like, no, I'm going to go out a hero, and then he wouldn't be around in the last season, or like he comes to some sort of agreement with Mallory. And I thought like okay, they'll like kind of wrap up his arc and make like confirmation like he's a hero, you know. Butcher was good despite it all, but no, like they go full in like, okay, Butcher is a villain now. He's embraced, and I love the conduit for them doing it. Like where Ryan accidentally he kills Mallory, and he's like, well, there's no saving this kid anymore. I know I promised my wife, but fuck it, and he goes full villain, and like, and then he goes in and rips Newman in half. Like I love how they were setting up this whole plot thread for this episode. Okay, we're gonna like Newman's caving. She's coming to us. Like she wants out. We're gonna help her. And the whole thread was gonna be trying to get her out of the episode while Homelander's like pursuing his agenda and trying to avoid that. And the complete subversion of Butcher walking in and just ripping her in half with his new abilities. Yeah, all like I loved that. I love this descent of Butcher, and that now like at the end he's going to be probably the final villain they have to face, because like and I'm just a sucker for that kind of storytelling. I don't know if I have the balls to do it in my own stories. I don't know, but it takes a lot of balls. But I do love it. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think like of, but yeah, like I am very happy with how this season ended and where it's going into the final season, because like it's not like we get some like, oh, like it ends with fascist doom state. The season, it ends with the very outset of that, and there could very well be a time jump at the beginning of next season. I think the next season is obviously going to start because at the end they capture everyone except for Starlight, and it's probably going to start with like Starlight going in and saving everyone and reassembling the team. I don't know if there's going to be a time jump and you're going to find that they're already in like this fascist dystopian state essentially run by Homelander. If that's how it's going to start, or if like they're going to make sure it doesn't get fully to that point, or if that's going to be a thing. But I do really like how they ended it. The final episode was great. The final episode was pretty much perfect in my opinion, except for fucking like Starlight getting pissed at Huey for sleeping with the clone. I watched Charlie Penguin Zero's like talk on this too. Like the clone pretending to be Annie to sleep with and sleeping with him, that's him getting sexually assaulted, and you're pissed at him for being a victim. Like the second he was able to figure out, like the second he had enough clues to figure out that it was a shapeshifter and not actually Annie, like he did something about it immediately. He immediately acted. He's like, oh shit. Like, and immediately acted to try to stop the situation, you know? Like, it wasn't like he was like, I know it's a clone, but might as well get lucky. That's how, like, Annie treated it. And, like, I don't know, that was weird. But it seems like a scene later she, like, comes around. But, like, also, Huey, in return, didn't really acknowledge Annie's situation where she was being held trapped in a fucking hellhole for a week, being tortured, and like her experience wasn't really acknowledged either. And that whole situation was like incredibly traumatic for both of them, and both of them kind of just like shit on each other. And I was like, that's weird, that's weird. But it seems to resolve itself a few scenes later. But yeah, all's to say, good season. I think the clever allegory and subtle satire that made this show so fucking great is gone now. I think like all the cleverness is gone. I think it's just it's just explicit. This is commentating on this. This is this. This is this. It's gone. The subtlety is gone, and I think that makes it a weaker show overall, just from this season. And even if like the next season isn't like, I think the next season isn't going to be filled with that much satire because it's going to take us to a dystopia already in motion. So I think the final season will be much more like the vibe of the finale of this season. That was less about the commentary and more about, the actual plot. So I think there's still hope, but like, I feel like the lack of subtlety that this season has, that started, admittedly, be leaking in season 3, kind of kills the timelessness of the show and the rewatchability of the show 20 years from now. It was one of my favorite pieces of superhero media, period, and I was going to recommend it forever. And it's not in that state anymore, unfortunately. And that's sad, but like, it's definitely not bad. It's still incredibly entertaining. The character work is still great. I love all the characters. So, yeah, overall, I think that's my thoughts. At this point, I'm just going in circles. So let's wrap it up, and thank you for watching.